Alrighty, welcome to the second season of the Damaged Goods podcast. This is the same Jess Robert, the same ill vibe. We got some new guests. We've got some new visuals for you if you're watching.
You just saw some amazing new title graphics.
Yeah, we have some awesome artwork as our intro by our talented friend Sage, who drew us up as cartoon characters. If you're listening to this and don't have the privilege of seeing it, check it out.
Little context, Sage is also the guy who designed the original Ill Vibe logo, the Heavy Ox logo that we've been using for forever. Sage has been a really good partner of ours for a really long time. And he actually contacted us with that illustration before we even asked for it. And it was just really cool that he was just like, hey, been listening to the podcast. And I was like, this is so dope. We saved it for season 2.
Yeah, for sure. We have a really exciting announcement. But before I get to that, I'm going to introduce our guest so that he doesn't have to sit quietly waiting for me to introduce him. So our guest today is a singer-songwriter from Hamilton, Ontario. Him and Ill Vibe have an amazing song together that came out about a year ago-ish.
I think it's actually 2.
2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Oh, wow.
I think it might be.
It wasn't 2018. What I think it is it was 2017.
July 2017. I know summer.
Was it?
July, August.
So yeah, 18 months ago. Yeah.
Okay. And that song is called Without Ya. You can find it on Spotify. And our guest is Dre Pao. Yay!
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming all the way from Hamilton. How was driving? Is it?
You know what? The second you hit the Gardner, you always have like a couple minutes to just stand still. So like, I mean, I'm used to it because I'm from Hamilton. I always make the drive down, but
Yep.
got some good music in. You're fine.
That's all you need. Yeah. So our very exciting announcement is that we are now on what, Ill Vibe?
It's finally happened. After many angry emails, not angry, but persistent emails, and we had to re-upload things and check file sizes. So much work. But we finally made all the robots happy, and they opened the gates. And Damaged Goods is currently on Spotify. Which is dope because I've been saying available on all podcast apps, and every time I write it, my little ADD brain goes, not all of them. Not the biggest, newest one, you know. And for listeners who don't have a podcast, basically what happened is there's been an influx of podcasts. And then so when Spotify opened the floodgates and took, podcasts from non-superstars like ourselves, so many people brought their podcasts over to that platform. So there was a massive delay to even get on. There was a backlog of even getting on the platform. Mm-hmm. And then for whatever reason, ours didn't work. But anyway, so now we're on. And I'm so excited because it looks really dope to see it on there. It's the place that all my music is.
Yeah.
It's the place that I listen to the most stuff. I don't listen to podcasts there because I bought a premium podcast app years ago. But it's the place where like media is being digested at a frantic rate. And I love this podcast. And so it's I'm glad that it's finally kind of in that final place that it's supposed to be.
Me too.
Really long-winded answer. We're on Spotify.
No, I think that's perfect. We're on Spotify. Check us out.
That's huge, man. That's huge.
A big thank you, as always, to lyricvids.com, who is still our sponsor.
They stuck with us despite all the... You said Urethra Franklin last episode, and I was certain that Lyric Vids was going to pull out. And no.
Nope. Still with us.
No other podcast will take them.
Yeah, it's 2019. We're doing good. What's in the works for you in 2019, music-wise?
Well, I think the way I looked at 2018 was 2018. 2018 was like a marketing year for me. I feel like I really learned about how to build yourself, how to brand yourself, and 2019 is the music year. So it's going to definitely be the most music I've released as an artist, so I'm pretty pumped about that.
Cool.
Can I say how I met Dre?
Yeah.
So let me tell you how I remember it, how I remember
We'll give our versions.
Yeah, because maybe there might be a detail I don't recall. So as I remember, you reached out to me and you had a podcast with a guy named Mike.
Yep.
Mike Zachariah?
Mike Zakaria.
Zakaria, okay. You guys have hard to pronounce last names, both of you. A short, hard name and a long, hard name. And you were working on a podcast that had kind of like a entrepreneurial angle to it, I believe.
Yeah, it was kind of just basically interesting conversations.
Okay.
Yeah.
But maybe I perceived it as entrepreneurial because you were like two young entrepreneurial guys.
Yeah.
And then from there, we were on socials. I didn't even know you did music at that point. You may have mentioned it in passing, but I was really thinking of you as like this young, ambitious, like student type guy with a podcast. And then when you reached out to me later about the Without You record, I liked it so much. And so I'm jumping into the next part of our story. But is that right? You reached out to me and it was a podcast, right?
Yeah, I think
4 years ago?
I think it's about 4 years ago. I had one or both of you on social media, and that's how I just, through the grapevine of Ontario, saw your stuff. And
Yeah.
I was like, this guy looks like he'd be an interesting conversation.
That's dope. And I appreciate you reaching out to me for Without You as well. So the reason I even want to bring up how we met is when I met Dre, he was just like, I remember just keen and like fucking raring to go. And like, even having the podcast, you could really tell it was about opening doors and having conversations and learning stuff like all like good young people are supposed to be. So when he reached out to me with the record, and I kind of saw that like the branding was dope and he had a really great like video direction team behind him and the song was really crazy and catchy. It's like those three things don't really align that often when I get reached out for features at all from really established artists and like old 35-year-old people who've been doing this for 15 years, 20 years. Is everything really organized from the jump? And so I was just like, that kid's doing is something really right. And then from then, the next time I saw you was when at the Million Streams party, from the video shoot to the Million Streams party. And again, this man threw a party, or I guess worked with a club for a party to celebrate a million streams. We went to that. And it was just like, really well organized. You don't play around. You execute on a really high level. And then the next time I see you, I'm out supporting an artist that I think I'm going to sign to Heavy Ox, a guy named Andrew Cameron. There's lots of stuff to happen there, but I'm really excited about him and his voice. And so I look over and in the corner, this man's judging, was it Toronto Independent Music Week? Yeah. And so this guy who I've thought of as like being like this like younger guy just entering the music business. Next time I see him is on a million streams track together. And then the next time I see him, he's judging at this like music industry event that I'm going to. I don't think I've ever seen somebody in like, I see them 3 times and it's like exponential growth every time I see them. And like never a bad look, always crushing it. And so when we started talking about season 2 for the podcast, I was like, we for sure have to have Dre on. I'm just looking for an opportunity to talk to people like you who just execute at a high level and don't play around and know what you want and seem to like just really make it happen for yourself in really short order. So that's a really long-winded compliment. I only give long-winded anythings over here. So
I really appreciate that. And I like that you call me, when you say a kid, I know you don't mean it in any bad way. When you say that, I feel like it's such a compliment because in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting old. Like,
we all are, bro. Yeah, don't take that in any patronizing way. I just mean, I saw you as this guy getting started and like, I know how hard this game is. So when someone's getting started, in my head, I just go, oh, it's going to be a few years before they're really doing it. It's hard as fuck to get any traction in the music business. It's just impossible. And so when you see somebody who is starting and also getting traction, it's like you pay mind pretty quickly to those people who, have a good head on their shoulders and they've got a good strategy and good people around them, because I met really great people around you during that time that we worked together. So what's I don't think I've ever asked questions like this. It's not really how I go, but what would you chalk that up to? You've had so much success so quickly. What's working for you? I
feel like, I mean, in my head it's not quick, but I feel like maybe from the outside it looks like that, but I think just super patient. I feel like, really analyzing the moves. I feel like I'm super over analytical. And before I do something, I plan it out. I make sure all the pieces are in place and then I go into it. So like for me, like 2018 was kind of a preparation for 2019. Like, with that single, I was planning well ahead the year before sort of thing. And sometimes it works and sometimes it gets more difficult, especially with the industry today, which is like you need 1,000 songs. Everyone's releasing a new song every week and it seems very capitalist the way music's become.
I was going to ask that. You said that this year is going to be like a music year. Are you planning to do like one release at a time, or are you planning to release a full album? Or
as much as like I'm a huge fan of when artists release huge, big, long projects. I just don't think it's the right move for me. And I'm also learning from you and from what I've seen on social media, you're doing kind of the single thing too.
Yeah, I made that transition in the last 6 months. Yeah.
And so I think
it's hard. It's hard. It hurts the ego at first to be like, I'm not going to just focus on an album. Because that's what I love is great albums. It feels really weird.
It gives so much more opportunity to grow, though. It does. Because if you release a full album, all your marketing goes into the album as a whole. And you don't really learn like what worked, what didn't. You know what I mean? It's like, whereas if you release one song, let's say one does really good, the next one you release doesn't do that good, you can maybe analyze, why didn't the second one do as good? What did I do differently? Whereas when 100%. It's the full album, you kind of don't have that same information to go off of.
When I look at all the individual facts, there's no denying that a single strategy is the way to go. When I look at the ego of a teenage me who was listening to like the Eagles or
Things have changed in the industry a lot too.
I know,
though.
but it does. But like I do,
Because everybody was
that's
releasing
just
albums.
how my
then.
brain works. You know,
Yeah.
I have a song coming out called Heart Say, and I'm going to put it out as a single because I love it, and that's how I'm focusing on records. But it's an album song, in my opinion. It's like a love song about like life and like following your gut and not listening to the voices on the internet, and that's not traditionally a single. And so I think no matter what, I'm going to have to break a rule. I'm either going to have to put out singles that aren't really traditional singles, or I'm going to have to put out an album. And so in this case, I'm going to try the single route because the predominating factor for me, the big one it is the reason I'm doing it no matter what else kind of changes, is one single at a time just puts a lot of attention on that song. Because Anti-Gravity was kind of my career work and I felt so good about it, but there's 3 or 4 songs I think are some of the best records I've ever made, and just no one even
get enough
heard it.
attention, yeah, just because it's mixed
Because
in
it was
with
track
the whole
8.
album. Yeah.
My song with Socrates. He's a legend. He's one of my favorite
Yeah.
artists of all
Great song.
time. Is one of my least streamed songs of my career. And not because of the record, because it's track 7. And it's just, I didn't put any money behind that one. So as far as if you're not my super fan, you don't even know it exists. And so I think the answer is singles. You know.
How have you found, because you've been in this game longer than I have, and you've been like here for social media, streaming being like massive.
Bro, I resisted Facebook. Isn't that weird? For how much I'm on it, I was the last guy I knew would get on it.
Really?
Yeah. Because I was like, this sounds stupid.
I know.
It sounds so, it's weird. Now I've made like so much money off of Facebook. It's hilarious. But I was just like, at one point I was like, that just sounds so stupid. Yeah.
What I was sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
That's what I do. I cut people off. So
I was
please cut
just
me off.
curious, like, because you were also doing the hard copy stuff, and when that was a huge thing and a necessity, how did you make that transition, and what was it like to? Because you had to obviously have that talk with you and yourself and your team, being like, "Hey guys, we got to go full like stream mode. Like,
Bro,
we're not going to produce hard copy this."
You'll love how it happened. Because I was already distributed by Fontana when things went between physical to stream. So when I got signed to Fontana, streaming existed, but it was primarily iTunes, not streaming. It was more digital downloads. And as far as Fontana was concerned, and all distributors, by the way, this isn't specific to them, that's almost as good. It's just, it saves them the money up front on the cases, and people are still buying they're still doing their distribution thing. So when they lost HMV, they lost a big piece of their business, because the real reason you needed a physical distributor was those relationships with the retailers, the relationships to know how much money does it cost to put up a poster in Sunrise Records across Canada. It wasn't very much money. It was $500. But only distributors know that. You can't call as an artist Sunrise Records and try to negotiate that every time. Right. And so when the record stores went away, they were really hanging on to the iTunes sales, and when that fell to streaming, I remember when my rep over at Fontana, he's been on this podcast, Andy, I said, oh, we shouldn't do physicals. He's like, are you fucking crazy? Of course we should do physicals. It's like, physicals is all the money we make right now still. 1 year later, I said, we should do physicals? He said, I've told every one of my clients no physicals. In 12 months, my rep, whose their entire living they were making was on physicals, went from, of course you should do them. Never sold all those physicals. I got caught at that end of that cycle. And then even the people whose bread and butter was physicals being like, we can no longer deny that you absolutely should not be printing physical records anymore. And by the way, I'm not saying they're not doing well. Fontana is likely doing very, very well. I just know what their money was before in the old system. And so they must have really shifted things up. What's interesting is they actually diversified. So I think a lot of the distributors became labels. A lot of the distributors became PR companies as well as distributors, so that they could kind of make additional money. They kind of spread out and start making a little bit more. And I think that's what the business is now, where like publishing companies also have like PR wings, and like PR companies have like label divisions. Everyone's trying to make as much money as they can.
Is there any value to having physicals? Like if you're an artist that tours a lot, is it still
touring?
So that's the only thing.
It's like keepsakes and merchandise. Because Dre's a good example. Like, he's a good-looking guy. The genre you make, you're going to have young and like female fans, ideally, and they'll want to come and buy something and take home with them. They will.
Yeah.
and male fans, but I just mean like in the traditional sense, these like young girls will love one of your pop records in 2 years, 3 years, and then they'll want to buy something and bring it home. You know, that's where the tour shirts come in.
I was going to say, if an artist were to invest in shirts or CDs, which would you recommend? Right, shirts, yeah. And
shirts you can also give away. People they actually have value as a prize or as a giveaway.
Yeah.
Versus CDs don't really.
Yeah.
But CDs are also very inexpensive. You can do a short run CD for like $2.50 per copy and sell them for not a ton of money and even give a couple away. And the reason that I think I sold most CDs in the last year, where I was even still selling CDs, was it's something you can autograph. They're like, I'll give you $10. Will you sign up for me though? It's like 98% of the CDs I sold in the last year, I even sold CDs, were like, will you autograph it though? And I think that's really why they wanted the physical. Or if you're in like Nebraska, where you look out in front of the venue, it's all pickup trucks, that you sell a lot of CDs in those places.
They still have CD players in their car.
Oh yeah, like Winnipeg or Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Yeah, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. It's like pickup trucks with like those old like cassette things with the wire to like a Discman.
Do you listen to physical? Will you buy one?
We listen to vinyl.
Yeah, so we started buying vinyl. I bought Jess a pile of our favorite vinyls, everything from the new Mac Miller recipes to Alina Baraz, and I bought you some oldies, some Deltron, etc. And so we've been really enjoying that. Bought a nice new turntable and new speakers that specifically work for vinyl. And we're really enjoying the experience of physically listening to the albums that kind of define our relationship. You know what I mean? But in terms of soaking up like audio content, no, it's all stream. I like listening to what's new. We've been writing so much pop. I love listening to the charts. I love listening to like, oh, what's this person doing? I love that you can listen to a song once and be like, cool, now I know what Selena Gomez is doing.
Yeah.
She's awesome, actually, by the way. But, you know, I can just check out what DJ Snake is doing. He's not my favorite artist in the world. And then when me and Maya are working together, I can be like, I heard this cool sound on this DJ Snake song. Yeah, I love Spotify.
Totally.
Now on Spotify. Damage Goods.
Damage Goods Spotify.
Yeah, I like vinyl. I collect vinyl, to be honest. I'm a huge fan of all the oldie stuff.
Any tips for us new vinyl collectors?
You know what? I can give you the guy's contact. There's this huge vinyl collector in Guelph, and he's got so much doubles, and he puts like every month all his doubles, and he has like classics from the era.
Oh, interesting. And he's
selling them for like $5, $10.
Oh, wow, that's a good tip. I'm glad I asked. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna ask about that.
Beauty, and yeah, I'm getting like classic albums for like affordable prices. So remind me before I leave, and I will get you that.
I'll get that information. So we actually started with more new records because I thought it almost made a statement that it's like I want to almost document the music of our relationship by getting like the commemorative vinyl of each of those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On our first vacation together, we listened to Drake Take Care. So you get Drake Take Care. You know, it's like these are these like records that like mean something. But yes, my next thought is like, oh, I got some Otis albums I'd like to get. I got some like, I'd like to get some of the records of all my favorite all-time songs as well. So yeah, no CDs. Here's a question. Up here we have a cassette tape by my friend Def3.
Okay.
Def3 is a rapper from the west coast of Canada. I met him in the Czech Republic at Hip Hop Camp. He made one of these cassette tapes. Would you ever do something like this, you think?
Would I make a cassette tape?
Yeah. Because that's basically the same thing we just said. It's kind of like a...
Yeah, cassette tape and vinyls are very similar. Where it's like, I would buy a cassette way before I would buy a CD off my favorite artist.
Because you kind of buying so like cool. But you're buying it almost like a thing to put on a shelf.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And I mean, if I had enough of them, maybe I'd get a cool tape player and play them.
Oh, you know what? That would be kind of cool to have a tape player.
Yeah.
I think it's possible it even comes back the way vinyls come back.
Yeah,
you know,
I think so.
For sure.
Interesting. I never thought of that. That's like a cool idea of like getting like a boombox here and then you're like...
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom.
I went to see Jessie Reyes when she was in Toronto, and she was selling tapes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I thought that was cool. Like,
yeah. No, I've known a few bands to get a run of tapes.
It's the trendy thing to do.
Yeah, and they just look so cool.
Urbnet's a label in Canada who, for years, signed a lot of rappers. I mean, they repped Young Classified, Danny O, Mocha Only, our friends Philly Moves. I'm sure they still do some of that, but I know a big part of what Urbnet does now is cassette printing. They just like essentially they just moved over and they just essentially like, hey, if everyone likes cassettes, we got a real good link on cassettes. So it's just funny how companies really move sideways. Like I never saw the lyric video thing coming. It's so funny. When people talk to me about the lyric video business, they talk to me about it like it's so amazing how you like saw that opportunity and like it was one of many shots in the dark. We have taken many that did not work.
I always knew it would work.
No, I felt good about it too. But in that first 6 months, we sold 18. It wasn't like it just like popped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
and we were just trying it out, like the same way we tried whitewallmagic.com, or
Yeah.
we also bought musicvideoweddings.com, and we tried, like we've done little test launches of other ideas that just didn't have a response, and this one did. But I think that's what happened. Same thing with UrbNet and their cassettes, or, you know.
Yep.
Mishi Me is like a publicist now. Well, not Mishi Me. Oh, it's not Mishi Me. It's another one of these OG Canadian rapper girls. But anyways, I can't recall which one it is. But she moved to New York and became a publicist. It's like there's just way more money in being a Manhattan-based publicist than there is being a 45-year-old rapper in Canada. So it's like, it's interesting to watch musicians like move sideways, but like seemingly ahead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
I think it's important, man. I think you guys, even with the lyric vids thing, you guys, the amount of times I've seen someone on my Facebook post like looking for lyric vids, and all the tags is lyricvids.com. Like, I don't think I've ever seen like that many people tagging the same company. So you guys have done a really good job with that.
Thank you.
Definitely.
I think the takeaway, and the reason I even focus on the takeaway is because I try to remember this so we can catch the next one of these, and so people like you can watch for these, and like our listeners can watch for these. Is it's like you're really looking for that perfect storm of, and YouTube is huge. It's an opportunity, right? And it's just like not everybody can shoot a music video, and that sounds specific to us, but I think those types of two scenarios happen all the time, and they open a lane for a business. And I mean, we could talk all day about the things that we did with that opportunity to keep that spot now that we've had it for 2 years, because we've made a lot of smart decisions after the fact to make us tough to compete with. A lot of the companies have come up and then 4 months later they're gone because they can't compete with us. But in terms of identifying those opportunities, you just got to really keep your eyes open, because it's just like, wait a minute. This would be really inexpensive to do. Companies charge $5,000 for lyric videos?
There's gotta be a better way.
Be a better way. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All my subjects are non-music related, so I want to make sure you guys talk about your music stuff.
No, you know what? No, I feel good about that. We don't really talk heavy. I really didn't want this to be a podcast where I had my music business friends on to only talk about that. But since we talk way more about porn and our sex life than we do about the music industry, when we have somebody on who I want to pick their brain, it's good to do so. But
of course, I just didn't want to pivot too soon.
But I do think it is pivot time. So let's not talk music business anymore.
The one thing I want to say before we I think it's kind of music, but
add it,
I listened to your last podcast.
Nice.
And you guys said something about, maybe Dre enjoys podcast and Dre enjoys clubbing, going to clubs.
Yes.
The answer is absolutely not.
Interesting.
That's right. Do you remember? Because we talked about the party that he threw in the last episode. That's right.
Yeah. Because it was amazing, but it's just like, even on a night like that, I was just like, I can't do it though. Once it's no longer about me, I think it might be time to head out of here pretty soon.
And you know what? I was the same, but I do notice that now when I think back to it, I was like, oh, that was dope. I wish so much was happening. I wish I appreciated that more. But when I was there, I was like, and I did it twice. I did another club thing.
Oh, that's funny.
And I was like, the second one was I was just like, I need to leave. And no offense, everyone was really great. Everyone was super supportive.
Yeah. No,
I was very thankful for the club for hosting and all that stuff.
We've got Dre Pao in the building.
Yeah, I'm just not a club guy. I don't enjoy
without ya. Let's play it again. They played it twice.
Yeah, it was good, man.
That's my favorite thing. That's the third time someone's come on the podcast and be like, wait.
Last episode.
2 podcasts ago.
I don't like that shit.
Yeah. So on the last episode, I recapped the 2018 news.
Now you're going to recap 2019. Let's go.
Pretty much. Basically, what I'm going to do is tell you guys some predictions for 2019.
Okay. I like it.
And see what you guys think of them. These aren't my own predictions. These are internet, mostly tech predictions.
Jessica's original, unique, from her own creativity predictions about 2019 that she wrote all by herself.
These are not my predictions.
And I totally just wrote an article called 2019 Music Predictions. So I'm curious what is in there.
Nice.
If we have any similarities.
We're going to get one of yours in this mix too.
Go ahead.
So foldable phones to make a comeback in 2019, especially smartphones with foldable screens.
Yeah, they're different than the old flip phones.
Yeah.
Which is why I think they'll be popular. Flip phone nostalgia will come back mixed with the new foldable screen hype, and it'll be a big.
So what is the benefit of a foldable?
More screen.
Because you don't have to have your keyboard on the screen.
Yes.
So your keyboard would
the
be
screen basically the front
almost like
and
a
the
BlackBerry
back
that's
and
foldable.
the sides is the screen.
Yeah.
And I think the idea is that you'll be able to flip it to compact it, and still once you compact it, now that it's smart, and it will just know that piece is now just the screen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's the idea that it's this smart, always adjusting screen depending what you're looking at and how you need it.
Yeah.
And also you can play games, for example, and like flip it over.
Is the keyboard still digital, or is it like a BlackBerry where it's
No,
like
I think it's digital. It's all just, I believe it's 100%
I was going to say, I don't think I could go back to buttons, because it's like, it takes longer. It takes like a 0.2 longer to like push in a button than it does to just like tap a screen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's the deal, is it's 100% screen and it bends.
Okay. Next one. Worldwide. So I think it's already like this here, but worldwide, the internet officially becomes bigger than TV in terms of minutes spent consuming content.
Interesting.
So I think that's probably already like that, I would imagine, right?
It's like that certainly overall, but maybe now they just mean specifically like more minutes watching video content.
Yeah.
Because I would say here, it's, I mean, NBC doesn't have as much, but it's
Netflix is considered the internet,
yeah,
right?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, not TV, yes.
Well, I do know 2018 was the first year ever that marketing dollars in social media was spent. There was more marketing dollars spent on social media than on TV.
Yeah.
So there you go. So those two things happening at the same time makes perfect sense because the advertisers are following the traffic as it goes from the TV to the web.
Totally.
So the scary thing is it going to always be affordable for people like us to put out a boost or an ad? Is that going to go away in the future?
Gary Vee predicts that all ads on all social media sites were at their lowest in the past, and they're continuing.
I think they're
to
already going up, right?
So every day ads cost more than they cost yesterday, technically. Maybe not exactly that, but you know what I mean. Yeah, no, it's problematic. But I believe heavily in I believe in math, because what happens is it will get to be too expensive, which will create its own sub-market with ads on a different place, because there'll be too many of us that can't afford ads here, and we'll just automatically we will spill. Someone like me or you will be like, let's put our minds together and be like, if nobody can afford ads on Facebook, what's the solution? And then now everyone spills over and they're spending all the money over here. I think, whatever, what's his name says, Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park.
Life finds a way.
Life finds a way.
Very true.
While we're on the topic of sponsored ads, your phone's actually being used. I was going to say, crap, I should check on his phone. So yesterday we were hanging out and I'm like, why am I getting so many sponsored ads on Instagram? He's like, what do you mean so many? And I was like, 1, 2, 3 ad, 1, 2, 3 ad. And it was 3 posts and then a sponsored, 3 posts and then a sponsored. He checked his, he went down like 20.
22 without saying one.
And so I'm like, why am I specifically getting more sponsored ads than other people?
Like 7 times more.
7 times more than him.
Damaged Goods, Lyric Vids, or me.
Yeah.
So Jess is being targeted heavily right now.
Yeah, I feel like
why?
That's like they just have like a select few that they're testing out like beta stuff on.
Maybe getting ad tested.
Do you use your phone less? They'll see maybe.
Yeah.
Those ads.
Yeah. Will you use Instagram less?
Will you engage with those things they're giving you?
Yeah, they do like A/B test constantly.
Yeah, I did email them. I
if
complained.
the ads go up or the ads go down, how does that affect usage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's good. Like, I feel like some people wouldn't think to do that, but I think that's important that like you put that step in and said like, I don't like this.
Yeah. I just basically said, hey, I'm like, I checked my other, like my business account or whatever and my husband's account. I'm like, and it's like every 20 posts. I'm like, so why is mine every 3 posts? And can we please change this? Because if they're beta testing, that's totally fair. But now that I've caught on to it, can you make it not me? Like, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Because I think it would affect how often I use Instagram. If it doesn't change, I don't know that I would always I wouldn't scroll the feed as much anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
I worked in advertising for years, and the shitty thing about advertising, and the reason I got out of that business, is it's an arms race. Every time the consuming public gets too smart for an ad to work, they just go one further down the tree. You know what I mean? So that's why product placements are the thing now, because it's like, oh, they know that the NFL's favorite peanut butter doesn't mean shit. Like the average viewer now knows that. So what will we do? We will put peanut butter in Ballers on HBO being eaten by the NFL player guys. Yeah. Because people don't yet know that that's bullshit. Yeah. But people will get used to that.
It's funny because it goes on like a rotation too, because have you ever seen like the 1950s movies where they're like, wow, Folgers, How I Start My Morning, and it's really corny. They kind of do that in movies now. Like I've seen it so blatant. Yeah. The one girl was like, do you want a cappuccino? This Nescafe makes anything. I'm not kidding. Those were the exact words.
Yeah.
It was like a modern TV show. And she was like, do you want a cappuccino? This Nescafe makes anything.
Guaranteed
I was
what
like,
happened
what?
is Nescafe just said that's the phrase that we insist has to.
Yeah, we will pay more for
it
that.
Got forced into the script.
Yeah.
But you know what? The amount of people who don't know that are like,
No,
oh, that's just a part of
the
show.
average
Yeah.
viewer is still not aware of that. But
Yeah.
that's what I mean though, is that when they do wisen up, the advertisers go, fine, here's one you won't know, and then the viewer kind of wises up to that. It's why blogs are dead, because blogs were essentially for sale for the last 5 years. So the average viewer is like, oh, why is all these shitty? Oh, I know, because every post was purchased by a publicist, so it doesn't feel authentic anymore. It's why Hip Hop Canada died. It's why all these websites didn't last, because it was pay to play essentially, which I'm not even against. That's fine, but I have a theory that the viewer can sort of tell, and so they just
Or eventually they will. You'll get away with it for a while. But
you know what? I'll read this one over this one because it just feels cooler and realer and more authentic and less like the same 4 publicists spot all the spots. You know what I mean? And I think TV is going to have to do the same thing, and radio is going to have to do the same thing. Years ago, I predicted that because of internet radio and Spotify, that local radio, like Flow 93.5 as an example, would have to start playing us so that we would promote them, so that anybody would listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because why would you ever listen to Flow 93 over top of Hot 97 if you can, or Power 106 or whatever, or Spotify, your own
especially
playlist?
if your new car that you're buying is just
Why would you ever listen to AM 640 when you can listen to us or Charlemagne, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And guess what happens? Flow 93 once a week. Local artists. It's like all my favorite homies from the city getting played, and they're on all their Twitters being like, listen to Flow 93 because they're going to play us at 7 p.m. And I think everything's going to go that way, where it's just like, you can only trick the people for so long, man. You know?
Yeah. And even with blogs, like, I always like asking my friends, and you guys might be an anomaly because you're in the industry, but I always like saying, name the 5 websites you go to that aren't social media.
What do they say?
They can't name any besides, like, a lot of them say porn websites, obviously.
Yeah.
Besides that, they're like,
Yeah, like they'll go to like
Facebook,
NHL.com or something or whatever. But yeah.
we're not on, like, for the blogs. How many of those blogs are we checking on a weekly basis? That we're like,
And
oh,
there's a
I gotta check it
few
out.
that still matter in the world.
Of course.
But they're the ones who always retained the like, oh, we can't be purchased because we understand that that's how we're going to last. You know, that's how you... yeah, anyways, it's not off because my whole thing is I'm not even anti-commercialism. Like, I would love one day to get a sponsor, but it just needs to be done in an authentic way. Otherwise, people will find another podcast to listen to. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Let's get back to what you're talking about. I go on my rants about ad shit.
No,
I
it's
spent
good.
years in that business.
That's what the point of this is.
It's like a cancer in the world. Cancer's not the right word, but it's like this like negative thing in the world that no one really talks about. And when they do talk about it, they just talk about the way the ads use like big titties to sell stuff, which is one of the negative things, but it runs so much deeper than that. They're just like fucking with our like sensibilities of what's real all the time. And I ran from that industry like a fucking man on fire many years ago. Wow, it got dark. Keep talking.
GM self-driving cars become available for ride-sharing services, potentially competing with Uber.
Is that going to happen this year?
That's what it says. This is just like tech predictions from 2019 from a reputable tech website.
Now, you might not know this, but how will they compete with Uber? Because once that becomes commonplace, Uber will also go driverless. And so is GM going to essentially launch an Uber service?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I know one of the car manufacturers is already teamed up with Uber and agreed to essentially make their cars going forward. Like the autonomous cars, when they're ready to go, will be made by this company. I can't remember which company it is. But yeah, I wonder if GM is like thinking gangster like that. Like they're just going to launch like a GM into 10 years. Like our kids, I'm not going to have any, but our kids will be like, oh, my GM's here. And to them, that's an Uber. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Like, are you guys on... Do you guys want to be one of the first ones going into these self-driving cars? Or?
Yeah, I've been following it for 5 years. I trust it fully.
Okay.
The only accidents that have happened are guy takes the wheel and fucks it up. In like, I think out of like the 11 cases, that's 9 of them. And in 2 of the cases, the car did it. In one of those cases, I follow closely. It hit the back of a tractor trailer. And so I basically think they weren't ready for that scenario or whatever. And in the other case, I don't know what happened, but the guy was watching TV on his phone and then the car hit something. So the guy's not supposed to be doing that, I guess, or whatever at this point still. He's supposed to be watching the road. So it's like, even in the cases where it crashed, it's like, the guy did it 80% of the time, and the 20% of the time the car did it. It's like relatively rare, and if you're watching the road, it wouldn't happen to you. And so I think I'd be okay with that. I think I would start off with just like around the city, But after you just started seeing it constantly, man, you see cab drivers and Uber drivers and like just generically people who drive you around, they don't always have the highest like standard of driving. Right. Including me. Like, I'm a good driver in that I've only been in 2 accidents my whole life. I'm not a bad driver, but I'm very aggressive. I'm on the gas and then the brake. It's like, I'm way more likely to get an accident than a robot. Like 400 or 500% more likely. And so, yeah, I just know that's better. I trust the math enough to know. And yeah, would I be cautiously watching the road constantly? Yeah. I wouldn't be one of these dudes napping in the back seat while it just drove me to work.
Isn't that the point eventually, though?
Yeah, but I think... what they'll do, this is my guess, is that Uber or GM or whoever will make announcements that they continue to improve the AI, that they've continued to add, what's it called when there's like multiple safeguards or like, where it's like, anyways, multiple safeguards to make sure that redundancies, that even if this didn't work, this would work. And if that didn't work, this would work. It's like, okay, well then I would start to maybe trust that. You have that first nap where you fall asleep by accident, you wake up, you're okay. And then you would slowly start to trust it. You know what I mean? And I could see myself getting there, I think.
Yeah.
But then
I don't drive, so every car ride for me is driverless.
Yeah, Jess gets a lot of anxiety. So Jess has a lot of anxiety in cars. Do you think you could handle being in a...
I don't know if it would make it better or worse. Because I do think that part of my anxiety is not trusting people. I know when we were driving across Canada, I was just basically, I remember going through my head being like, oh, all these fucking transport truck drivers are probably on coke all night to make sure that they can stay up and drive their, you know what I mean? Like
that's where I'm at.
So it's like, I think but at the same time, when we're going through the transition, it's going to be half humans, half driver, like a robot car. So it's just like, I don't know that I trust that either. You know what I mean? If all of a sudden, snap your fingers, every car was a robot, I think I would trust that. You know, they're all communicating with each other and stuff, you know? Yeah. But yeah, I don't know.
That is the problem too, right? Because that's in all the cases where there were crashes, they're out in a world where it's the only test car.
Yeah.
So 90% of cars aren't robots.
Yeah.
It's a totally different game. Yeah. When they're all on the internet talking to each other. Yeah, crazy. What else you got for us, cuz?
Amazon's next move will be in hospitality. I did not elaborate on that, so I don't know what I meant by that.
Hospitality means like hotels and shit.
Yeah. So like Amazon is going to like open a chain of Airbnb type things maybe? Or...
You know what? Airbnb even existing is such a disruptive force in that hospitality industry. It immediately put like hella billionaires' fortunes at risk. Because if you own whatever share of Travelodge or of the Hilton, your money's fine, but this is the single biggest thing that's affected that money in our entire lifetimes. And it came out of nowhere. They did not see this coming. And then I think there was a minute where it seemed like they were going to change the laws or whatever to make it the bylaws so you couldn't do it. And then that just went away. I guess, and this is very misinformed, for whatever reason, the cities like think it's good for the economy to be able to allow it, but I don't know that's why they did it. But because I felt like for a minute they were going to change the bylaws and make the whole Airbnb thing not possible, and then they allowed it. So that might have just opened a floodgate of like Bezos like people being like, oh well, if that's allowed, then we have a bunch of ideas.
The only thing that I found when I quickly Googled it was Alexa's being put in hotels. So being like, Alexa, order room service. And then it orders you like room service and stuff.
That might be what it is.
Which,
we went way off on a different tangent.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't elaborate. I also don't know if that's what it is. It could be that, what's his name's going to start a chain of hotels. I'm not sure. But that was the first thing that came up.
Yeah,
what else you got? Anything else in the predictions?
Yeah. Companies will hire more candidates from non-traditional educational backgrounds, i.e. if someone just took a boot camp course online on coding rather than 4 years of college on coding. You know what I mean? Which, yeah, I think that's probably already happening.
I did. I went to university. I went to McMaster. Cool. For 3 years. Only basically so my parents didn't kill me.
Yeah.
But
what'd you take?
Political science. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, but I do not. But you know what? I knew in second year that I was like, I'm going into music.
Did you finish anything? Like, do you have a degree?
Yeah. I have a BA in political science.
Cool.
So technically, like, I went to school, but I feel like the last year and a half I was in music mode.
And do you feel like there's like, and don't take offense to this question, obviously you said you didn't want to be a lawyer anyways, but do you feel like, well, I guess with lawyer, I was going to say, is there things that you can do from going to university that you feel like someone who wanted to do those things wouldn't be allowed to do? And I guess being a lawyer is one of them. You have to go to school to be a lawyer, right? Yeah,
like, to be honest, I feel like to do any of the things that like a lawyer or even to go into politics and stuff. Maybe politics, you wouldn't need more education, but to become a lawyer, that wouldn't be enough. I would still need to do way more schooling and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, it taught me a lot in terms of like vocabulary and being able to write and meet deadlines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All completely able to learn other ways, but that's how I learned it early on, I guess, from school. But
that's what I was going to say. So I took advertising in college, and I didn't learn a lot in college, to be honest. I learned a lot of basic principles that really got my mind going on like the concept of marketing and the idea of like communication flexing to speak to specific people in their own languages. Those are great concepts for a young person's brain. Actually, and I took a few years off before I went to college. I was even older than the guys and girls I went to school with. But the stuff I learned in school mostly just got me going down that path.
Yeah.
I would say where I learned the stuff that I use today was in those first years in the working world, like in the agency world. That's where I was like, I learned all the skills that like I still use today, all the like schedule maintaining and being able to like use an Excel sheet to take over the world. And like that stuff I learned not in school even really. I couldn't have got the job without school, but you know what I mean? But that's not really, I didn't learn it in school.
Yeah. I went to makeup school, so I just learned how to make myself look really nice.
Well, you also like learn like special effects makeup.
Yeah, but I don't use it anymore.
No.
So I'm just saying that like of the things that I still use for myself in my career, it's really just doing my own makeup.
What I find interesting about advertising, and I have some friends who went to school for like marketing and stuff like that. I think that's a great thing that they're going to be introducing people who are outside of the education system, because I feel like, for example, marketing, by the time they're teaching what is relevant, it's changed and
absolutely
they can't keep up with the textbooks and all that. So you almost need someone who's in a marketing company producing marketing content for people, also teaching it.
And marketing is also, and advertising is all about new ideas, right?
Yeah.
What hasn't been done yet, and what can we do that'll grab people's attention?
100%.
And a good way to do that is by hiring somebody from an unconventional background who has different thoughts and different ideas, right?
I think probably the best thing a young person can do is intern. Intern for Gary Vee says the person you want to be or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was always focused on, the company you want to work for, so that way you have your foot in the door, just at one of the companies that you could like picture yourself being the boss of later on down your career.
Yeah.
But like that's not always easy to do, but that way more, if it was me and I could start over, way more than going to school, way more than playing the resume game I played for years in the agency world. I really should have just gone straight to the 5 places that I would have killed to work at and volunteered to work for free until they would be willing to pay me. And looking at what I've done since then, I probably could have pulled that off in 6 months or a year and had that place been like, fuck, this young guy's the truth. Let's make sure we pay him before he runs off to one of our competitors and is a maniac. You know what I mean? And I think that's honestly the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Is go intern.
Cyber attacks will move into the real world, as in on equipment, video surveillance, all those things.
I worry about this.
Yeah.
Earlier when we talked about all the cars on the internet, they're connected. Didn't even want to get into it. That's when my brain went immediately. It's like when everything's
terrorist
connected,
attacks.
someone would just go, and then they all crash.
Yeah, I feel like there's already been movies about this stuff, so I'm like,
It's terrifying.
It's totally a thing. I don't know.
It's definitely going to be a thing. We're going to see it happen a whole bunch.
Yeah. Just to get off that depressing one, I wrote in my one about hospitality and ride sharing, I wrote, side note, do you think that healthcare could ever be crowdsourced? So like somebody has their medical degree, but they're not necessarily working at a specific clinic. If they're like,
there's enough people that fall into that category that are like perfectly trained and just don't work in the business.
But maybe they could make more money by just the crowdsourcing thing. I don't know.
I think that for sure, but it would have to be as an answer to a crisis of like, we've got all these doctors who are trained and they're not working. So it's like, let's put them to work. Healthcare. I think it's way more likely that healthcare is going to be like AIified and like smartified and automated than that it'll be like crowdsourced necessarily.
Yeah. Cool.
That's my 2 cents.
Awesome.
Do you have a music prediction for this year?
I do. What did I have? One of the things I definitely think is Tidal becoming more popular in the world of streaming. I was just looking at the thing of like a lot of the old Dat Piff mixtape stuff isn't available on stuff like Spotify. And I know that it's exclusively available on stuff like Tidal. And I think more artists are going to do, exclusive type things because I think the money will be there.
Mm-hmm.
And with Jay-Z behind it and some people who are actually in this industry, pushing behind it, it could become more prevalent. I don't know.
That's weird because then I could never see myself paying for 2 different streaming services. You know what I mean? So that it's really like a tug of war because as long as one of them is the big one where like everything you love is, and then some of the stuff that you're missing is on another one. Yeah, there's just like weird tug of war where you're like, I'm not able to get everything I need.
I'm not saying it's going to take over Spotify.
No, but
I do think
people will sign up for both? Do you think a lot of people will just have both?
I would get both.
Yeah.
But I think that it's going to be more of the like hip hop heads or the people who are in the industry that want everything sort of thing.
Yeah. They'll switch sides. They'll jump to Tidal, you think?
I don't think Tidal, because I think there's some people saying like Tidal's dead, Tidal's nobody wants Tidal sort of thing. I'm just trying to be the devil's advocate.
I like it. I do think exclusives and those types of things matter. I think as streams don't pay that much, the idea that you can get a big chunk up front from the streaming platform itself is really where I think probably right now a lot of managers and label heads are at. On the subject of music, we talked about some other negative shit. Maybe I shouldn't bring this up, but I just feel like it's in our voice and it's happening right now. Did anybody hear or watch, know anything about
Drake
surviving R. Kelly?
I have not seen it, but I listened to the Joe Budden podcast recap of it.
Okay.
It sounds super messed up, obviously.
Yeah.
It sounds super messed up. In my head, I don't know. The question is, he's obviously, in terms of music only, one of the top R&B guys.
Yeah.
Does he lose that title? Does he lose that one of the best of all time R&B? Is he not in that conversation anymore because of all this?
I don't think that has to be that. I think that it is a thing where like you shouldn't be continuing to support his music and putting money in his pocket. Yeah. But that doesn't mean you have to say everything you did garbage. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to backlog and be like all those albums were garbage. You know what I mean? Like I think he can still be considered. O.J.
Simpson wasn't taken out of the history books.
Yeah.
They just no one books him for more celebrity appearances.
Yeah.
I think that's the way you go about it. It's just if you are a promoter and you book R. Kelly tour, the rest of us are going to feel kind of sus about you. You know what I mean? If you're like a big one of the top 5 music video directors and you direct the new R. Kelly single, I'm a big Lil X fan. If you went over and shot the new R. Kelly video, I'd feel a way about it because it's like. Why
Director X?
Yeah, Director X. He used to be Little X. Now he's Director X. But I'd feel a way about it. Like, why are we even collaborating and partnering with this like shitty human being? But yeah, if someone's like, who are the most influential R&B singers of all time? If you just skip his name, that just feels weird. You're like, no, you can say that he was one of them, but also fuck him for being such a shitbag. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The whole like, can you separate art and artist thing to me is like a conversation for dumb people because you can easily say. Louis C.K. for doing what he did is a shitty person and makes bad decisions about women and sexuality and not support it. It's ugly. It's disgusting. But also, he's allowed to be a stand-up comic. Like you can say those two things and feel good about it. You can say R. Kelly is a great singer. He influenced all these artists. But I can't play him anymore. It's like, I think you can make these parallel statements and be like, this I support, this I don't support. And ultimately this outweighs this. So this is how I feel. And I think that's just how we're going to know so much about our favorite artists that I think we're just going to have that conversation with ourselves about everybody. With Kevin Spacey right now, he's pleading not guilty. Today he pled not guilty. And I'm pretty sure all of us are on the same page that like, fuck that dude. But like we had to make that, but he is one of the great actors of my time. Mm-hmm. Now, am I eager to watch a Kevin Spacey movie? No, but it'd be weird to say he wasn't one of the great actors of my time. It's just like I don't know if I want to like edit my memories as part of this. Like I'm happy. I'm very happy to edit my support. It's quite easy because I don't feel good listening to sexy R. Kelly songs. I don't feel good watching Kevin Spacey act like a predator on TV. I don't feel good about those things. Yeah. But it's different than when it comes to like addressing what they were.
That's what I'm saying. There's a difference between going forward. I'm not going to support that person anymore, and I'm not interested. Exactly.
We don't have to get into it heavy, but it happened today, and we've talked tons about like me and Jess. We're big Mystical fans. Mystical proved to be a rapist, so we don't listen to him anymore. Yeah. And when we were making our like playlist, it was hard. For our wedding,
I loved Mystical.
We really wanted to put like 1 or 2 Mystical songs on there because they're great dance floor songs. But it's just like, no, rapist at our wedding. Yeah, we can't do that. And so that's just kind of where that's how we feel about that.
Yeah, totally. Did you guys hear about the Drake stuff that happened today?
No,
or it came out today. Yeah, I watched it. So,
is it the young underage girl?
Yeah,
Okay.
but so I'll say what it is first for people who haven't seen it. So basically a video came out of Drake when he was 23, which is probably about 7-8 years ago.
It was 8 years ago.
Yeah, 8 years ago. He pulls a girl on stage and starts dancing with her and is doing the whole R&B thing where it's just
Janet Jackson,
hey girl, what's your name? Blah, blah, blah. And then he's kind of feeling up on her. I think he kisses her and stuff like that. And then at a certain point, she does say, "Oh, I'm 17," and he makes a joke about not wanting to go to jail.
How old are you? And she says 17, and he's like,
and then is this kissing happen after that or before that?
So he says, "How old are you?" And she says 17, and he's like, "No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. You don't look like you're 17. I can't go to jail yet. I can't go to jail yet. You don't look like you're 17." And then he basically, right before he kicks her off the stage, he gives her a kiss. It's, I would say, technically inbounds. Because the kiss, I don't believe was and I haven't actually watched it in depth, but I don't believe it's a makeout kiss. I believe it's I'm a sex symbol and you're a young fan kiss.
Right.
He kissed her cheek, forehead, and then lips.
Okay, so so that's not a kiss. That's all I mean by that is that's relatively normal for sex symbol singers to bring a fan up on stage and kiss them.
Yes.
So finding out she's 17, deciding that this now needs to end and giving her a kiss before she goes is on the line, but I would call it inbounds versus out of bounds.
Well, the reason I would call it inbounds, and this is, whatever, this is an up for debate opinion, and that's okay. I'll be crucified for it if anyone listens to this, but is that 23 and 17 isn't that bad? Is that just me?
No, it's not that bad.
Do you know what I mean? I was dating way older than 23 when I was 17, and I know I'm also a bit of a...
Yeah, you went
I had
more
a specific...
Yeah. Jess dated a 40-year-old.
No, that's not true. He's over-exaggerating.
I'm joking.
I dated a 32-year-old when I was 17. I was almost 18, and then I turned 18, and then he's like, okay, now we can actually tell people that we're dating, because he didn't want to tell people.
Yeah, of course.
So obviously he knew that it was wrong. So I'm not saying it's okay, because obviously there was something wrong enough that he was just like, oh, this is a bad look until you're 18 type thing. But what is the difference between a few months? Do you know what I mean?
You're right.
So it's just I just feel like when I look at the video, Drake looks so young. Yeah. I'm like, he's a little baby, and he brings another little baby on stage, and yes, it was bad, and even the forehead, cheek, lips. It's just ew. It's more, you know what I mean?
It's more corny and gross.
It's corny and gross. Exactly. I personally, honestly, I'm just going off of feeling rather than facts. I just didn't get a creepy feeling from it. It didn't give me the pricklies. You know what I mean? It gave me more the warm fuzzies than the cold pricklies.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the reason this is bad for Drake is this is the third thing of 3 kind of gray area things that have happened with him recently. One was he was...
Don't even bring up the fucking Netflix girl, because that's nothing.
It's nothing, but
no,
I think
it's not. It's nothing.
People feel weird about...
I don't know what the Netflix...
Okay, well then let me explain it.
People feel weird about it only because they're mad at him for having so much money.
So basically, did you watch Stranger Things?
I did. I'm a huge fan.
So the girl who shaves her hair, the bald girl from Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So her and him were texting or whatever, and she said it in an interview. She's like, "Oh yeah, me and Drake text all the time. He gives me advice about
They met
boys."
backstage in an award show.
Yeah, and he's probably a fan of the show.
Yes, he is a mentor, and she texts him asking for advice, including advice about boys.
I think that's...
Twitter thinks that he's giving advice about boys is borderline pedophilia. And I'm not joking. You could find at least 50,000 tweets.
So I disagree. I disagree that it's that at all. Yeah. I'm just including it in the group of 3 things that have happened that are a bad look for him. And it's unfortunate that they happened one after another. That's all I'm saying.
This one gets me going because I'm not that famous, but if I get on a roll and I'm doing well, this could totally be me. I love having really close relationships with girls that I don't have sex with. I've had many of those over my life, girls that were much older than me, never really way younger than me, but definitely a couple of years younger.
And if a young girl texted you asking advice, you'd probably say stuff.
I love that she was being like a girl that I saw, she was gonna be this huge superstar, and then she's like, man, I'm really having trouble being famous with these boys. I would love being for example, there used to be a singer named Advocat from the Guelph area, and she would always hit me up for advice about stuff, and it just made me feel special in a kind of a big brothery kind of way, and that she was not just nobody. She was a singer, and she was having troubles with things, and I love that she would hit me up for advice. It wasn't by text necessarily, it was mostly on Facebook, but I could totally see myself getting into that situation, and it's not fair that I would be looking over my shoulder the whole time to be accused that I'm going to try to have sex with this kid. There's no evidence of that. Find me at a hotel with a kid, nail me to the wall. You know what I mean? Find a sex with a kid, nail me to the fucking wall. But don't nail me to the wall for having a friendship with a kid that in a 1 in 100 case could lead to that in some other case, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, sure, if you have enough adults who are friends with kids, one of these is problematic, but that's not evidence that every individual case is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I find it very frustrating.
Like virtual and it's people in the same industry and it's advice talk. Like, I mean, they're talking about like, if you're saying relationships and stuff, I can see how some people would be like weird about it, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that if it's just a conversation between, you know, friends and colleagues that are in the same industry.
Totally. And that's probably what it was. The other thing that he's been under scrutiny for is that apparently he was dating an 18-year-old, which is already pretty young, but pictures surfaced of them together when she was 16. Like these people scrolled back into her Instagram and there's pretty or I guess that's just like fan picture.
Okay, I just looked in the mirror. She is so hot. Well, not so much in that picture, but the previous one, she was super, super hot.
That.
So this is from 2016. So she was 16 in this picture, and it looks like it's in an apartment or something.
2016. Wow. And so that was just 2 years ago. So he would have been 30. Yeah. Hanging out a 16-year-old girl's pad.
Yeah,
that's tricky.
So that one seems like it is pretty big deal. Yeah.
With the newest one.
So all those things together, that's all I'm saying is it's not looking good for his
case.
He
needs to be smarter because I think it's not hard to avoid even even remotely under 18, just by being like, listen, man, I make a lot of money. You can say right to the girl, like it's a real risk for us to even really go back and hang out there. Even if we don't, she's like, no, we're not going to fuck. I can totally picture that girl. No, we're not going to fuck. We're just
you could never, you can't hang out with a 16-year-old.
Understand? We can't hang out. Yeah. It's like it risks all this shit. It gets risked. I'm really sorry. Like, I'm still going to be here. Holler at me when you're 18 and we still won't fuck, but we can be friends and then I don't have to worry about all my money getting fucked up. And it's just like, that would be really easy to do. So anybody who doesn't do that, it tells me that they're getting caught up in the life, that they're not thinking proactively about it.
And there really is no excuse when you're famous and you could literally fuck any 18-year-old or 19-year-old or whatever. I personally think you should probably go a little bit older, but
why not add a couple safety years?
Yeah. Just fuck 21-year-olds. They're great. You know what I mean?
I dated 5 consecutive 22-year-olds. It was like a problem I had for a while. I meet a new girl, and how old are you? I'm 22. I'm like, I think I'm going to date 22-year-olds, so I'm 40. But no, I moved on from that. But
he got himself an oldie.
Well, you know, a couple years older than that, but not crazy. All I mean by that is like, what I found is the difference between even hooking up and dating 22-year-olds and then dating, I think, were you 26 when we met? Something like that?
Something like that, 25 maybe.
It felt different instantly. I was just like, oh, someone my own age who's just like, and she was a couple years younger than me, but close.
We're still 5 years different.
But closer to my age.
You're older or you're older?
No.
She's younger than me.
I'm younger, yeah. No,
but she was
the oldest of all
closer
his
to my
exes,
age than every girl I'd ever dated.
Okay.
And even though I never dated even close to 18, like 22 is 4 years buffer. You know what I mean? The difference was like just developed and like she's had ideas about things and they did too, but you know, it's just like me when I was 22. I was figuring shit out still. And when you're dating people who are figuring shit out still, it's like, I don't think this should be illegal, but if I had friends who were always dating girls who were still figuring it out, I'd be like,
it tells something
why?
about them.
Why is that your thing?
Exactly. It's almost like they're not confident enough to date someone smart and like developed and like you said, just like more mentally.
Because even if they are smart,
like,
they're going to be smarter in 4 years.
Yeah.
So you're kind of getting them before they're reaching their full potential, and that's not really my thing. I like to hook up with a girl who's like in her potential zone. You know, because
a girl with a hot body when she's 19, there could be a girl with just as hot a body when she's 24.
That
you know what I mean?
Like, girl when she's 23 is going to have a hot body. So we got to find the girl who was 19 4 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
There are so many 18-year-olds that just aren't 18 anymore.
Yeah. Guess what? Everyone was 18 once.
Here's something that's going to happen this year. We had talked a little bit about broadcast versus streaming. So this year is the year that Netflix is going to see the competition massively grow. In addition to the fact that Hulu's done really well and Amazon Prime is doing really, really well. We're really big fans over here. They are going to be competing with new services from Disney, who now, of course, owns Fox. And I believe it's NBC is the other company that's going to be launching something. I think it's like Viacom/NBC I think is the other one. And so Netflix is likely to lose its top shows this year. So I actually have their top TV shows streamed on Netflix by percentage of the total streams are each of these shows. Mm-hmm. It's going to really blow you guys' minds which ones are the most watched. And I think it's actually going to say a lot about why some people are still watching broadcast. So The most streamed show on Netflix. Any guesses?
Give me a sec.
Is it old? 90s.
I'm not going to say that. The most
Because Friends
streamed-
obviously was
gonna go
big,
Friends.
right?
I'm gonna go with. I watched a ton of Friends last year.
So
I'm gonna go
Friends. I'm just saying your answer's Friends.
Friends.
Yourself, Jess?
Well, yeah, that's
You want to say Friends as well?
yeah, Friends as well.
Okay. It's not Friends. Number one stream show on
How I Met Your Mother.
Netflix is The Office.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that
with
makes sense.
7% of all streams is The Office. That's actually crazy.
It's because it has 9 seasons.
There are shows on this top 10, 20 list with less than 0.5%. It's still in the top 20 shows. So The Office having 7% is like, they are like 1,400% more than some of these other top 10 shows.
That's
it's
amazing.
Crazy how many people still watch The Office.
I've watched it twice on Netflix.
There you go.
I've watched it a lot.
In second place, Friends with 4% of all streams. Half The Office. It's crazy how many people are watching The Office.
How many seasons of Friends is there?
So many.
Probably about the same as The Office, though,
They
right?
just
Like
renewed
9?
it for a year for like $100
Or is
million.
there more?
Did you see that number that they renewed it for? Because it was supposed to expire this week. And so they renewed it till next January for like $80 million or some shit. Just like, let us keep it for one more year. It's our second most streamed show. Can you check how much it is? The third show, Parks and Rec, with 2% of all streams.
There's 10 seasons of Friends.
Then Grey's Anatomy, 2%. New Girl, 1%. Supernatural, 1%. All those shows leave this time next year.
Yeah, I heard New Girl was getting pulled.
So all of their top 5 shows, which account for like 12 or 13% of their streams, is actually quite a bit. That 70s show is in the next place, and they actually own the rights to that 70s show, which is weird.
Yeah, that's funny.
Criminal Minds, 1%, gone. NCIS, 1%, gone. Arrested Development, 0.8%, safe. Black Mirror's
Yeah, because
Mirror,
Arrested Development
0.6.
Netflix did the last season of Arrested Development, like it was brought to you by Netflix.
It made me so happy to see Big Mouth, 0.5%.
Nice.
So of course it's going to be safe because
Big
it's
fan
theirs.
too.
It's
Big
amazing.
classic.
So good.
And it's cool that many people are watching it, that it even popped up on the list, like just under Black Mirror, right?
Yeah.
So because Black Mirror is like a cultural movement. So almost all those shows are gone. Netflix is going to have a whole new face next year. They must be producing content out the fucking ass right
Yeah.
now, getting ready for this time next year when they're about to drop their most watched shows. And I guess that they're probably also going to be buying licenses like they're gonna buy the Cheers license or whatever, some other show that like might be up for grabs for them to try to slide into that place, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what I wanted to connect that back to, talking about broadcast versus streams, is none of those shows, except for the ones under 1%, have new episodes.
Crazy.
So people still, even on stream, just kind of want what they get with broadcast TV, which is reruns.
Yep.
So it's like
funny.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I think that's a part of why. Two things, but it's part of why some people are still watching broadcast, because I think that's what they want, and that's the easiest place to get what you want, which is just them to serve you a bunch of your favorite reruns. And then two, I think we are going to see a lot of people jump ship. Depending what's offered, we'll talk about that in a second. Because there are so many reruns available on streaming, but it really depends on what's going to happen. Because if it really splits, where like Viacom's like, fuck everybody, you can't have our shows, only we have them, and HBO's like, middle fingers up to everybody, you can't have our shows, only we can have them. So there's like 7 things.
Yeah, something's got to give.
I don't know what happens then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost like you'd have to. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Do you guys have anything, like, do you have like a cable or like a satellite?
we're just
No.
Netflix, and we don't even pay for
Netflix
Netflix.
and Amazon Prime.
We use Netflix through a friend of Jess's. Amazon Prime we have because we're big fans of Amazon Prime, the service. And then, of course, it comes with the Amazon Prime TV shows. Miss Maisel
amazing.
on now. Amazing. Go watch it.
She won Best Actress Golden Globe Award.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Have you seen Miss Maisel?
No.
It's so good.
It's about a stand-up comedian from the 1950s.
Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
This is Amazon Prime only.
Yeah, you can also torrent it if you don't have Amazon Prime.
it's
but
really, really
Amazon
good.
Prime also, by the way, pound for pound, best original programming and streaming.
Really?
Yeah, it's better than Netflix, but Netflix has more. So that's kind of it's like, I would compare it to like HBO, where you see a new show with a big actor in it, go get the popcorn. It's going to blow your fucking mind. Like, they don't make bad shows, but they don't have as many things as Netflix has.
Yeah, you can blow through them pretty quickly.
But everything they make is gold.
Like the idea of I tried like the trial. Or whatever.
It's
The
great.
fact that like you get that stuff delivered in like 2-3 days, it's not that expensive, and like I didn't give the
$90 a year.
chance, but
It's $90 a year, and then
nothing.
they deliver. We got like hat racks and delivered the next day, 24 hours. I bought a record. Jess had an old record player, and it was playing the record slow. We didn't know at first. It was driving us crazy. It's like, is that slow? It sounds a little lower than usual. and then so I ordered one on Amazon Prime. It was there the next day. You know what I mean? It's great. So yeah, that plus Miss Maisel, you can't go wrong. Amazon Prime, get it now. They don't sponsor us, but they should.
Did you guys get on, just from all the memes, did you get on Bird Box? Did you
Yes,
watch
great.
that?
That was great.
Yeah, we watched it. It actually gave me like super anxiety. Like it was actually really scary, which is weird. That's usually not the type of movie that I'm afraid of because it's like, just I love like watching like dystopian future, like weird stuff. But I guess it's not so much dystopian future. I guess it's more like horror movie, like thriller horror movie.
I hope it's not.
It's a little both.
It's a little bit of
I hope it's not
both.
future,
Yeah.
But it has a little bit of that feeling. Like,
Yeah. But yeah, it gave me like a lot of anxiety, but it was really good. I liked it.
I couldn't go to sleep after it. Like,
Yeah.
I needed to watch something.
I always do that too. I'm like, I need a palate cleanser. I need a comedy. Put on Friends.
Yeah, 100%.
Put on The Office.
Yeah, we do a lot of that, or Jeopardy, or something else light.
Yeah. Did you watch Bandersnatch?
I did.
The Black Mirror thing? Yeah. Did you like
did.
it?
I liked it. I still really, I enjoyed like the show season
It's coming.
stuff more.
Yes,
and I'm
yeah.
waiting for that.
It's coming this summer.
How did you guys feel about the interactive stuff?
Revolutionary.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. We actually were at a cottage when it came out, and we were with a bunch of friends who also really love Black Mirror. And we got spoiled. We heard in advance that it was an interactive thing, so we're like, oh, it's gonna be really fun. So we put it on at the cottage, and 6 of us like yelled out the answers like as it was going, and whoever yelled the loudest like got the answer. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
On the subject of Bandersnatch, today I imagine, or maybe it was yesterday, Black Mirror inspired news agents, which is like those little like newspaper shops, opened up in Birmingham's Grand Central Station and in Old Street Station in London. And they are essentially like video game stores from the 80s based on the Bandersnatch show. So it's like you walk in and you're essentially in that era in one of those. It's just essentially looks like a set from the show, and you can't buy anything, I don't think, because it's just full of old 80s computers and computer games. But it's like I think like a Netflix like promotional thing where they just basically built these like it's like a little set from Bandersnatch.
That's really cool.
Go into, and they just popped up in like train stations.
Where'd you say in New York?
In England, basically.
Oh, in England.
In
Cool.
Birmingham and London.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, I would love to see those.
Last night Golden Globes. Did you hear about the Fiji water girl? Either?
Yeah.
Of you? I love her so much.
From this area.
Is she?
I had a bunch of people on my Facebook like tagging her. She's like,
Kelleth Cuthbert.
Yeah, is that her name?
Yeah. Sent
She
Twitter
got-
into a friendly as she photobombed every celebrity on the red
frenzy, you mean?
carpet. What did I say?
And do a friendly.
Into a friendly. She's a very nice girl. She photobombed every celebrity on the red carpet. My instinct is that it's a promotional thing. How a Fiji water branded promotional rep ended up on
Do you think?
red carpet.
No, it can't be.
Yeah, I think Fiji water paid an arm and a leg to allow a rep on the carpet, and they planned it. That's
Do you think like they had like paparazzi like planted?
She's literally
where she
standing
is.
behind.
Yeah.
Well, look at her in that photo. She's literally standing over her shoulder.
Yeah, but I was listening. The way I found about it was today while I was getting my hair done. I was watching like Entertainment Tonight or whatever, and they said that those girls were everywhere. That one just happened to be in that spot. They were like everywhere though.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, you know, it might be a fail, as in like they put too many promotional reps on.
Yeah,
on
and
the
so
red
that's the
carpet.
only spot where she had to stand.
That's
and her boss wasn't around to say, "Hey, move," or whatever. Somebody's boss wasn't around to say, "Hey, move." Anyways, super funny.
I love it. Another person from this area, not her, a guy named Yanni Georgopoulos, 31 years old, of Toronto, traveled to Washington from Canada to deliver 2 bottles of Crown Royal Canadian whiskey to Trump in hopes of sharing a drink with the president and to obtain the commander-in-chief's advice on finding a wife. He got arrested by Secret Service.
What?
Yeah, so he was trying to smuggle like 2 bottles of Crown into the Oval Office to get drunk with Trump.
That is the weirdest story
I know, I
I've
love
ever heard.
it. It was in the Toronto Star today. It was like my favorite, like random Toronto Star story.
That's hilarious. Isn't the Toronto Star kind of not good?
Oh no, Toronto Sun is the weirder.
Oh, Sun
lying
is the
one.
weird one. Yeah, that's right.
Even still, neither of them are known for just making shit up out of the blue like a tabloid magazine is.
Yeah. It's just the
they don't have
Star
a great
tends to
reputation.
focus on like alien baby stories and stuff.
No, Sun. The Sun.
Oh, the Sun. The Sun.
Star's pissed about
Yes.
this.
Sorry, Star. Sorry,
First of all,
Star. You're
the
the
Star did a
you're-
story about
You're the
me
best.
called
Not really the best, but
What It's Like to Be Smart. So we're gonna treat them with respect.
yes. Ooh, they did.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, after Canada Smarts
Yeah,
person.
they did.
That's funny.
It was very flattering. So we're gonna be nice.
Speaking of Trump, government shutdown. So we talked about this last night.
I don't want to work. I just want to bang on my Trump all day.
The record for the longest government shutdown is 21 days. And right now, I think tomorrow's going to be 18 days.
Yeah, they're going for it. Going for the record. You know, Trump likes his records. He's gonna,
And I was actually searching. I was like, what even... why are they shut down? And it's because of the wall, essentially. Because
I don't know U.S. politics.
I think it's basically like he's pressing the button to be like, start spending money on this, and everyone's like, whoa,
Yeah,
we haven't agreed that we want money
fund.
spent on that.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why there's a government shutdown. But apparently, it's going to start. It's when it gets towards like 20 days long, it's going to start affecting a lot of really important things. Like there's a lot of like immigrant, especially because of the wall thing. There's a lot of immigrant court hearings that are kind of in limbo right now. So there's just like millions of immigrants and stuff like that, like waiting to hear what's going on. And the longer that goes,
waiting in really comfortable hotel rooms.
Yeah. And the longer that goes, the more backed up that gets. Also, even scientists are saying that they'll start missing opportunities to meet with other countries about like new advancements in science and tech and medical and all that stuff. And if they miss that for too long, they become behind. I wouldn't imagine that a month worth of that would like...
likely that's just them throwing up flags. They don't want to lose any funding. They don't want to lose any opportunities. It would be a pain in anyone's ass to lose funding and opportunities. But yeah, fuck Trump, I guess.
Yeah.
Agreed.
You know what else is his fault? Something else happened in Trump's America. KFC began selling limited edition fire logs that fill your home with the scent of its special 11 herbs and spices.
Ew. That's really gross.
The logs, which sold for $18.99 a piece, are described as ultimate winter necessity, according to the company's website. KFC claims the burning of the scented fire logs may result in cravings for fried chicken and may attract bears or neighbors who are hungry. I think it's just an example of actually something that's really cool, which is corporations. I don't know how I feel about them all the time, but having fun with their marketing. So, if you're going to spend marketing dollars and like promote chicken to me, there's certain ways you could do it that would just only annoy me. Like promo reps, like trying to give me coupons. I'm trying to get off the subway or whatever. It's just like, no, I'm trying to, or like a billboard up in the sky. I'm trying to look at the beautiful sky. These are annoying things. But when I hear that KFC is selling chicken scented fire logs, I laugh and I go, okay, I got a little something out of your marketing today where I'm like, it made me happy for like 5 seconds for, it's like when Cards Against Humanity or whatever, they dug that ditch that Christmas.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like for everybody who buys a plaque will dig another hole, another shovel. We're just digging this big ditch for no reason. It's stupid marketing, but it made me laugh. And it's like, I feel like that's the best way. It's one of the best ways for you to give a little value back to me. If you're going to be marketing to me constantly, make it entertaining, make it funny, make it interesting. That's even why I would even want to talk about it on here, because it just literally made me giggle. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to say that out loud. I like it.
Speaking of Cards Against Humanity, we played that at the cottage last time we went, and I took an Instagram video of us like burning certain cards that were like really inappropriate, and like I forget what the one was, but it was like, I know the whole point of the game is that it's inappropriate, but there was one that was like not funny and just like specifically inappropriate. It was something like raping your sister or like something like that, where I was just like, oh, that's not really that funny, and it's not where. Yeah, I don't remember what it was either, but
just a couple also just like really boring ones.
And also, I'm not mad at the company for putting that in there. It's just I don't think that's funny. I know none of my friends think it's funny, so I don't need to have that in the playing deck. Anyways, the whole point I'm telling the story is I made a little Instagram video of us burning them. I got like so much hate messages. Like people were just like, oh, I guess you're too sensitive for that game then, and I'm like, dude, no, actually the game is great. I love the game. We just didn't want to play with that card. Like, sorry for. Yeah. And I was trying to be even like lighthearted about it. Like I was like, oh, you think you're PC? We're gonna burn these cards. Like I was trying to be funny about it. But even though I was like making a joke about it, people still took it really seriously. Like, oh, you're so sensitive. You have to burn a card that you don't like. Nah, nah, nah. And I was just like, that's kind of the joke.
Tongue in cheek is tough. Internet's not doing really very good with tongue in cheek right now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, on either side.
I don't know what to do about that.
I don't know.
So I guess I gotta be me, I don't got
solutions for that. Maybe a new emoji with a tongue against the cheek.
Yeah, I like it.
That?
I like it.
But maybe I don't know if that will symbolize it well enough. I don't know.
What else you got?
I don't know. I gave you a bunch of random news. Do you have anything more on yours?
Mine are really hard pivots.
Oh, piv.
I'll piv.
Piv away. Jeremy Piven.
So I love space-related movies. The Martian, what's the one we started watching last night? The First is like a TV series. Yeah. TV series about the first people going to Mars and stuff. But every time I watch them, something kind of comes up in my mind that has been plaguing me over the past few years. And that's that I think I might be a moon landing denier. I honestly am I'm really amazed. Let's say I'm a believer. I'm really amazed and impressed that we did that in the 60s. What? We went to the moon in the 60s? Like we there were so many things we didn't know how to do yet in the 60s.
Like what?
Do you know what I mean? We didn't have cordless telephones. Couldn't figure that out. There were like these ringing metal bells that were just like encased in plastic, and it was like a school bell that would like ring, and you couldn't talk to more than one person at a time. You know, yeah. Barcodes were not invented yet, so scanning stuff. Wow. You just used to type everything in at a store. There was no barcodes.
ASPARAGUS.
Asparagus. Walkmans were not invented yet. Maybe cassette ones were.
Wait.
No, I don't think Walkmans were at all.
Portable music didn't exist at all.
Portable music didn't exist at all. Digital cameras didn't exist. Atari was not yet invented. The Commodore 64, not yet invented.
Blowjobs, not yet invented.
No, but you know what? Like, that's a hard topic to talk about, I feel like, with a lot of people. But at the same time, I mean, if you look at some of the evidence that's been given, it's not ridiculous to say that I have some questions. I think you're allowed to have some questions.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, is there motive to fake it? Absolutely. During that time period, there's motive to fake it.
Yeah.
So, with those I'm like, okay, I want to have some questions. I want to ask them.
Totally. And I'm not a conspiracy person at all. No. Like, you know, I don't believe in lizard people. No. You know,
she barely believes in lizards.
Jay-Z and Beyonce aren't like the Illuminati. They might be. They are in a way, but they're not. You know what I mean?
If they are, they're not eating babies.
Yeah, they're not. You know, there's no underground meetings.
Babies don't even taste that good. With cloaks. Why would you eat babies?
But yeah, I don't know. That one's one that I like lately. I've been struggling. I never really questioned it before, but lately I've been struggling with it.
So there's a movie called First Man that I went and saw. Have you seen it with Ryan Gosling? No. It basically documents whatever Neil Armstrong's landing on the moon. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Everyone's heard the quote. Anyways, so when you're watching the movie, it's like there's this big lead up, and they're like, we're gonna go to the moon. They're all this like sciencey shit, and they're like putting them in, and then they're just there. It's even in the movie, it felt a little like they fast forwarded
the science part.
They fast forwarded the part that we're all wondering about.
They skipped the tech part. Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's just like they're gonna send me to the moon, and then he's just up there, and it's just like I don't know, man.
Yeah,
because you think that it's a big long like you're gonna watch it. It's worth watching. I don't know if it's gonna get Oscar noms because it wasn't quite that good, but it is that kind of movie where it's like they do a really great job of getting you in his head. You know what I mean? And then it's just like you'll watch it, and especially after having this conversation, it's just like they really did kind of breeze over the how did we learn how to do this?
Yeah,
that's a huge story. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. In '79, which was a decade after the first man-powered aircraft crosses the English Channel. So, wow, isn't that kind of crazy?
They went to the moon
10 years later.
What?
Yeah, first man-powered aircraft crosses the English Channel, the Gossamer Albatross. So I might have to like research that and get more info, but that was just like
still being developments in flight.
There was still lots of developments in flight, and there were airplanes and there were jets and there was all that stuff. So it's not like it didn't exist, but there was still lots of developments to be made. So it's just like it's either it didn't happen or
they're still opening cans with rocks,
or that it happened and it is like way more fucking amazing than we give it credit for. Do you know what I mean? And I know we do give it a lot of credit. There's tons of movies about it, but it's just like, what? It was so dangerous. Like, why did you do that? You know what I mean? Like
unnecessary and quite
it's almost
dangerous.
Like going over Niagara Falls in a barrel. Like
almost
it's just like
that, except times 1,000.
Yeah, times 1,000. Like
no, let's go to the rock that's floating up there.
Yeah, just
to say we can.
And there should be a movie on that guy or that team that put that together. That's a movie in itself. Just like
I know that the movie about the Hidden Figures is about some of the mathematicians who did the math about like re-entry, for example. So that's not exactly the math to get them up there, but it's one of the teams that would have been responsible.
And you know what? If any scientists are listening to this right now and are offended that I'm saying that they couldn't have done this in 1969, hey, I'm not very smart, okay? I don't know very much.
We have an actual rocket scientist who's going to come on the podcast. He's not a rocket scientist, but he does have...
Can you explain it to me?
Yes, I bet he can. That's why. So the guy named Tim Blay, who I was on Canada's Smartest Person with, he's an actual like scientist, and he has a YouTube channel where he explains like complex things. So we're gonna have a list of shit that we're gonna have him explain to us, so that we can get off that shit. Because if he goes, you know what? Come to think of it, no one does know that. Then I know we're onto something, but I have a feeling that's not what he's going to say. I have a feeling he's going to be like, it's actually pretty easy once you look into it.
And one thing I will say for the argument that it did happen is that very shortly after, too, they sent a thing to Mars, and it was like the first thing walking around on Mars taking pictures. So it's very unlikely that they also have faked that. So if they were able to send this thing to Mars, which is way further, then they're probably able to send a thing to the moon with a suit that you could get off of it and walk on the moon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? I can suspend my disbelief and think, well, if they can do the Mars thing, obviously a few years prior, they could have probably done moon, which is way closer.
But that's not 50 years ago.
What's that?
But that's not 50 years ago.
No, yeah, it's I forget what the timeline is, but in like the 70s or whatever they said.
Yeah, but like a couple of years ago when they went to Mars, it was like 40 years before that they went to the moon.
No. I'm saying it's closer together than that.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, they sent something to Mars, like to take pictures or whatever. Okay. Just not that long after maybe like 8 years after or whatever, but like it's not that long after.
I was thinking about the Mars thing from my lifetime. I didn't know there was a previous Mars thing.
I think there's been a few things sent to Mars.
I thought we invented going to Mars.
Who's we?
Team Mars? Like, are you... If that's a possibility in the future where you could travel to different planets and stuff like that, hypothetically, would you be?
Well, I don't know all the options. What are the other planets I could go to?
I agree.
I'm pro other people doing it. I don't know that I would do it.
For example, if they've turned the moon into like a giant, just amazing paradise. It's just like completely
like a theme park.
It's like a theme park, but like there's a lazy river that goes just around the moon. I might go to
Moonland.
I like that.
The next Aliens album is going to be called Flat Moon Theory. Good to say that now in the middle of this. You
want to explain what Aliens is?
Aliens is my rap group with Myra Clarity. That we.
You make it sound so lame.
Well, it's because I don't like rapping.
My rap group.
I really don't like rapping anymore. So when I say rap group, it just feels weird coming off my tongue. But it's my musical group with Myra Clarity. On the subject of space and future and stuff, it's 2019. And this is one of the years that movies depicted, in the past. In the bottom, I go, 2019, Los Angeles. In The Running Man, 1987, starring a young Arnold Schwarzenegger, they depicted deadly reality shows. Have either of you seen The Running Man? It's really interesting, and we don't have it, but it's one of those things that we could have. It's like reality shows where if you don't win all the money, you die.
Right.
It's like the guy's like running on a treadmill, but then the thing just keeps speeding up, and behind him is like fire or whatever, and then there's like one beside him, and whoever falls off first, the other guy just wins all the money.
What?
Yeah. So it's I think it's based on a Stephen King book,
right?
A short story, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of his first movie stars in the movie version, and that's this world is like. It's all reality shows. There's no movies. There's no TV shows. It's all reality shows with like deadly consequences, i.e. like Hunger Games. And then The Running Man, the biggest show on broadcast television, is this show where like 100 people are running and they just never stop. Ever. And so eventually, obviously, somebody falls. Bang, bang, they're dead. And the last guy to fall keeps going. So they said that happened in 2019. So it's just funny. Like it's one of those things where we've caught up to some of these like ambitious claims of what the future we're going to look like.
Yeah, right now we're in like the span of years where all those 90s movies were like predicting, because it was kind of a realistic view into the future, like 20, 30 years into the future,
Akira, 1989, said the world would be run by motorcycle gangs and government experiments warring against each other.
Tatsuo.
Not quite there.
Have you seen Akira, babe?
I'm not an Akira person. Yeah. But it's just one of the movies that depicted 2019. Blade Runner, 1982. They said we would have renegade androids. Not quite. That's close, though. Almost have androids. Then the renegades come later.
Yeah, they're not renegade yet.
We have behaving androids.
Yeah.
And then here's what's really funny is you guys remember the movie The Island about cloning with Ewan McGregor and another young lady, I can't remember. 2007, they depicted 2019. It's interesting because it was only 12 years later, and it was a very ambitious depiction of what 2019 would look like. That essentially the whole world was dead and that they were recreating clones on this little island. Good movie. But yeah, it's just funny that as it becomes 2019, 2020, 2021, there's like 100 sci-fi movies that depict this like generation as being this dark, smoggy place with like alien robot overlords, and mostly it's still just the same.
Yeah.
We're not quite there. No dystopia
When you
yet.
do look at the differences in tech, it is like there has been like leaps and bounds, but it's just like it's not necessarily as obvious and in your face as you would think. Like it's not like walking around holograms and like, but we do have that technology. It's just why would we use it in that way yet? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
It's like we can make a Tupac on stage and people can go see him, but we're not going to use them to be like just walking around the street for no reason. You know what I mean? Like they would have in like a sci-fi movie from like the 90s, you know?
That's a good point. Sci-fi movies do things more frivolously because it looks cool.
Yeah.
And then in our world, we don't do things just frivolously because
For
it looks
example,
cool.
Google,
It has to be functional.
Google Eye or what were they? Google Glass?
Glasses, yeah.
Yeah. It's just like we have those and
didn't work.
it just, they look stupid.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things in these 80s, 90s movies, we'd be wearing like these big goggles and these big gloves and like, it's just like, but we don't want to do that.
That's a really
we're
funny
still
thing.
just humans, you know, who just want to like not have that weird stuff on us.
It's
you
like
know?
somebody gets out of a time machine in 2019. They're like, where are the like VR goggles? I'm like, I mean, we got them. They just don't look good.
we bunsed ours.
You didn't invent those yet? No, we got them.
Yeah.
They just don't look good.
We're over them.
We're just over those.
They had a brief run.
You never really considered that. They're like, what about the hoverboard? You got a hoverboard? I'm like,
Like, yeah.
It's not what you think.
Yeah.
As fun as you think it would be.
Exactly.
It's like this like pessimistic view of the future. It's like that's the ultimate dystopia, that we actually do have all these things, but they're just kind of lame ultimately. You don't really want them as bad as you think you did. What about those shoes? You just push one button and they cover your foot. I kind of like just tying my shoes.
Yeah. That's true. That's real.
You know?
Do you guys believe in hypnotism?
Whoa, you the one smoking weed? I thought I was.
I've never been hypnotized. So have you tried to be
No.
hypnotized? Have you been to like one of those comedy shows?
I was in the crowd for one of them, but I'm the kind of like, my brain's like bouncy, bro. Like there's no way
Yeah.
anybody's hypnotizing me. I'm not nearly chill enough.
We watched this one thing. What's that guy from the UK who hypnotizes people and stuff?
Aaron Brown, I don't trust that motherfucker.
Yeah, you don't trust me anymore. But
No.
before you get into that,
I don't trust that motherfucker.
one thing that he and a lot of other hypnotists say is that it's a certain type of person who can even, as he's been susceptible.
Suspectable? Suspicious.
Oh my gosh, am I having a seizure?
Perceptible?
No, you know what I'm saying.
I do. Susceptible.
There's a certain type of person who can even be hypnotized. And I think that you are not one of those types of people. And I am one of those types of people.
That's how I got you. I hypnotized you, man.
I honestly think I think I'm like a people pleaser. And it's just like, if let's say I was hanging out with a group of people and they were like, hey, let's all go tobogganing. I'd be like, you know what? With this group of people, I'm down. Like, let's all go. It sounds like you guys would have fun. I'd have fun. Let's do it. But then if I was with a separate group of people and they were like, man, tobogganing's lame, I'd be like, well, I'm not going to go by myself. So I wouldn't go tobogganing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I just want to like go with the flow of like what people, I just want to make the most people happy in the group that I'm hanging out in. You know what I mean?
And that
like,
makes you easily hypnotized, you think?
I think so.
Based on what Darren Brown, the liar,
I think so.
says.
So tell me about what you think about this. There is I think the name is, she calls herself a conscious hypnotist or something. I'm butchering the name, but
sure.
She's in Hamilton and you sit down with her. I've never done this. I have friends who have done it and they said it's completely like true. You lay down, she puts a tape recorder on, she puts you in a state and you start telling her things about past lives and experiences you've had and you go into details. Mm-hmm. And then some of these friends I've had said, I don't remember saying any of that. And then they listen back into them telling a whole story.
What's the point of it? Like, is it supposed to like release like negative things like, from your past?
Why am I so angry? Why am I so this? And then you sit down with her and you're like, oh, you killed someone in a past life and all this stuff.
Right.
And I was like,
well, I don't believe in past life stuff.
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe in past lives, but the fact that there's somebody who you have to pay her, it's a legitimate person making a living, and I know people who are claiming that it's legitimate. I don't have the cash to just throw at that.
Yeah,
so
I would love
other things I would like to buy.
That'd be fun. Damaged Goods presents Jessica gets hypnotized, like, and we can just go record it and see what happens.
If that's like, even if she can get me to say stuff that I don't remember, that's impressive.
Yeah.
I would love to be hypnotized and it worked.
Yeah,
that alone would impress me.
Yeah, totally.
That you were able to put me under and make me say shit that I would otherwise never say.
That's
Yeah, that would impress me. I don't believe it though.
I want to believe it.
People say that they get hypnotized to like quit smoking and stuff. Like, do you think that's real?
Yeah,
or?
I do. So I had a friend named Jake in high school who was kind of like me, pessimistic. He was even smarter than I was. He was a very, very bright dude and like an asshole in the best way. The kind of guy that you could like not get one past. You know what I mean? And we went to one of those shows, and he went on stage, and without any question, I'm certain, without a shadow of a doubt, that guy was hypnotized 100% deep.
Oh, so you do believe in him?
And yeah, he did things that he would never have done. I watched him do it. He was very like reserved dude, and he was up there like humping a chair and being crazy. And that was not Jake. He would never, ever, ever have done that. And we used to smoke weed every day after school, day before, day after. There was no hiccup. It wasn't like he ever did something like that again. He's not the kind of opportunistic guy to go try to trick his friends. He never brought it up later as like, remember that time I fooled you guys? No, he got hypnotized that day, 100%. So I think that's real.
So I'm confused.
Yeah.
You do believe in hypnotism.
I believe in hypnotism,
Okay.
but I don't believe in past lives and any of the magic stuff that can sometimes be.
No, that's like a way out there version of that.
Floated around the hypnotist.
So let's go a bit further from that then. If you believe in hypnotism, what do you think it is? Like, what is it?
No, I believe it's that. I mean, I guess how it works is that he's able to put you asleep, essentially, I think.
But then why do you do, when he snaps his fingers, you cluck like a chicken or you hump a chair or whatever? Like, what? What is that?
It's a thing. It's just a thing that we do.
So we're just like really agreeable when we're in this sleepy state?
And not everybody is, but I guess the idea is that our brains are all, like our animal brains or whatever, are all always reading each other's eyes. We're looking for yawns and like blinks, and like we're very susceptible to things, even subconsciously, we're not even aware of. Mm-hmm. And so maybe this is just, you're relaxed, and he just plays with that and see whose responds. They're like, they're subconscious. Just like, oh, if I do this triggering thing that generally can trigger somebody.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem like magic to me.
Yeah.
That our brains spend decades watching for signs and signals, and they're just constant receptors in ways that we don't actively do.
Yeah.
It just does that.
But then my question would be like, why aren't we actually using it for something? I don't know.
We do.
It almost feels like you could use it for something better.
They do
like,
use it for PTSD patients and for all kinds of that stuff. I think.
Yeah, I guess I just don't know enough about it.
I just think there's a lot of things that doesn't help you with.
Yeah.
Quitting something.
Yeah.
Or forgetting something, like some abuse or whatever. I think that's right now is how they use it. I think that's how you would use it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I wonder what like the first like hypnotist, like how he like got people to believe, like, you know what I mean?
That's a great question.
Wouldn't they think he was like
how
evil or something?
Figure that out.
And how do they even figure it out? Yeah, exactly.
How does somebody figure that out?
That's messed up.
Maybe like talking to somebody like while they're
thing,
like,
right? It's this thing.
Yeah.
That was the first. I think that is a thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it helps. I think they still do it because I think it helps. Yeah, it helps to get you focused or whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I believe in that, but I do not believe in psychics. And when I say don't believe in it, I sort of feel like even saying don't believe in it is giving it too much credence in that there is something to believe in that I just don't believe in. There are no psychics.
So what some of the psychics are just very intelligent and are able to just like read people very well.
Firing on all cylinders, perceptive. I believe in that for sure.
My mom, after my grandpa died, she works at a call, she still works at a call center, and she had a client. It was like AT&T wireless or something, and they needed help with their cell phone package or whatever. And they were just like, oh, someone died close to you, eh? And this is like a week after like my grandpa died, and she's like, yes. She's like, how did you know that? They were like, oh, I could tell. And I think 100% that was probably what it was. Because what are the odds that somebody, I think they probably just some subtlety.
Well, you know how
voice.
some psychics work. They know percentages.
Yeah.
That's a big part of how magicians.
Yeah.
And
That's why I mean by smart too, is that
25% of women this age have lost somebody in the last 6 months, and they consider that recently.
Yeah.
I'll throw it out there.
Yeah.
Worst case, she goes no and she forgets about me. Or I'm right, and she remembers me forever.
And tells everybody about it.
Yeah. Man, that's way more likely in terms of like the people I've met in the world.
Yeah.
Just people being
but
like,
I think
yeah, you're an old lady, you've lost
it,
somebody recently.
Yeah. But the guys who do it in the crowd with all the people, I think it's like a bigger version of that, where it's just like they're doing kind of a numbers game and they're kind of figuring out.
If you read articles about Darren Brown's live show, it takes all the fun out of it.
Yeah.
It's just all numbers games.
I don't even necessarily mean him. I mean, there was like that other guy too.
pure cheating. Anybody on broadcast is pure cheating, because the thing that they rely on is that you think, well, there's no way they do that. Insert that here. For example, there's no way they would shoot the magic trick out in the street surrounded by people, then go back to the place the next day at the same time and shoot it again with wires. They wouldn't do that, except that's how they do it. So it's like they just go one step further than you think they'd be willing to go to pull the trick off. Yeah. So that's why broadcast shit is just like instantly can't believe it. You got to go see it live, and that's why when I read articles about the live shows and articles about any pessimist who went to a Darren Brown show, it's just like they left laughing, being like, oh. Yeah. He's just basically like playing a numbers game, and just enough people will believe it that it becomes a thing.
What's the what was the comedian we were watching the other day that was like saying about how terrified he is of magic? And he's just like, tell me how you did that right now or I will punch you in the face. Yeah. Like he was just like so mad, like at the guy who throws the deck of cards at the window and then the card is like on the other side of the window. Yeah. But he was also only watching it on TV, right? He wasn't watching it in person. So
yeah, exactly.
Who knows?
I don't trust any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't necessarily believe in people like reading the crystal ball. I'm going to predict your future stuff. Like that is,
where do they buy the ball?
But I do think that there might be people who can sense like energies and that sort of stuff. I do feel like that everything is energy and certain frequencies are accessible to different people.
I think so for sure.
As long as you're talking science and avoiding magic. Yeah, because I agree. I think there are people who are
reading people is science.
And they can look at you and they see that you're a really like charismatic person. Okay, I see that you're actually quite sensitive, and then they're able to draw conclusions, and when they're talking to you they can really read you. Fully believe that. Yeah. And but that's science makes perfect sense that somebody would just over the course of their life would have developed a really intense ability to do that the way that I think I'm actually pretty good at it. So if I'm better than, let's say, my parents are at it, well, there's probably someone who's 10 times better than me at it, and there's probably two people 10 times better than that person. Mm-hmm. And that's like the guy from there's that TV show, what's the fucking called, The Mentalist, where it's just basically like a hyper intelligent genius who applies that genius at just staring at people.
Yeah.
And therefore now he can tell if you're lying, therefore he can, you know what I mean? It's like, that's not what most geniuses do with their genius. They go to some math lab, but this genius from this show, and I think there are people like this, who go, I'll use my genius to be a psychic. You know what I mean?
It's a bad word for it, but yeah.
You know what I mean? No, but I use genius, well, because the definition of genius is this is like extreme intelligence in a certain area. And I think some people are genius at being able to look at a person and be like, oh, you're sad. Oh, you're a specific kind of sad. Totally. Oh, that would mean these three things. And so I can ask one question that will tell me but like most of us couldn't get out. I have to really bust my ass to even be 5% that effective of tricking somebody. And I'm a relatively smart person. So it's like you have somebody who's quite intelligent and able to manipulate people. You know what I mean? It's like a very specific skill set.
So with that, with keeping the like sciencey aspect of like, we agree that you can't destroy energy. Do we agree that?
I believe energy just converts. I think that's how the physics works.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a science guy at all.
No, but I listen to physics stuff sometimes.
So when can people who are hyper sensitive to energy speak to people who have passed away and their energy is somewhere else?
I don't think so.
Why not?
Because they are, when we say sensitive, they're only sensitive with the same senses that we have. So they can see, hear, taste, smell. We all agree they're not smelling the ghost and having a conversation that way. They're not tasting the ghost. In most cases, they're not even claiming that they see the ghost. And sometimes they do. It's just right above you. Right above you. They either hear them in their ears or like in their brain. And that's where we all of a sudden we're talking magic again. Also, there's no science that explains how somebody's passed away energy that really could be dissolving could talk to your inner ears. You know what I mean? Like we're kind of making a leap there.
Yeah. And that also says a lot about like the afterlife. It's like, so we're just floating around energy, but that can create new thoughts and even want to communicate with some person who can.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just one leap. There's like five
be in the same room as that person at the time when they're listening. And like, there's just like so many different things.
It's not just energy. We're claiming it's sentient energy. Yeah. It's sentient energy that chooses that I'm going to have a conversation with Dre Pao.
If somebody sits down, that their mom's energy follows them into the room, and then that person can talk to their mom. Like, you know what I mean?
And that's why I just say science, because not impossible, but science would suggest otherwise. Science would suggest that even if there is an energy situation, it's probably like a depleting energy that then goes off into the world in many different ways. The way that that's how all energies. If we suddenly open the door, a wind doesn't come in the shape of like an arrow. It's like it really just goes everywhere. You know what I mean? And we open the door, our inner heat and the outer heat molecules will disperse evenly. You guys remember that from science class, where like the dots, the blue dots and the red dots cross over the line evenly, because it's just like whatever the two sizes of the two rooms are. Nothing suggests from science. I'm just using basic grade 9 science, but nothing from science suggests that energy would stay together in a sentient, intelligent way.
Yeah.
And trust me, bro, when I lie awake at night after smoking weed, because weed keeps me up at night thinking about stuff, the last thing I want to think is that there's going to be a minute where suddenly it just clicks and then my energy just goes. But I think so. I think that's I think that's what science says. Someone else is a bag, like a garbage bag above it. I got Ilbag's energy.
Talk to it at night.
Is he parachuting my soul? We're at 140. If you have anything else, I'm happy to do it. But otherwise, we can. What's it called? Everyone put your seatbelts on. We're going to be approaching landing. It's like, you're at an airplane and you're like, the flight's almost over. So let's everyone return to your seats. The flight attendants have to go sit in their landing seats. Yeah. Landing gears coming down. We're going to land this motherfucker.
And then I have a panic attack and you go, it's okay, babe. It's okay.
You're the pilot, babe. You're the pilot. I need you to focus and stay with it.
I'm the pilot in this situation.
You're the pilot. You're the pilot. Land us.
Jeez. I guess that's it, right?
Oh boy. Does the co-pilot need to step in?
Yeah, I think he does.
Well, that's episode 1 of season 2. What do we normally do at the end? Let's see if I can do Jess's job that you did all season 1.
Do it.
You should follow Dre Pao on social media.
Dre Pao Music on
at
Instagram.
Dre Pao Music.
Yes.
Is it on all platforms?
On everything.
Oh, smart man, good man. He's honestly a good dude to follow. He's always sharing information. You actually curate content. You're filming this right now. So you're actually one of the like cooler content creators to follow on Instagram. So I heavily recommend that. You can follow us at Damaged Goods Pod. If you mess with this podcast and if you're at this place, we've been talking lots tonight about Spotify. The way Spotify works is you follow us. And then it's not like a subscribe button. It's a follow button under the Damaged Goods podcast thread stream. Whatever, go follow us because I'm sure that matters. I don't exactly know how yet. We just got there, but I'm certain it matters that people follow us. So if you do, that'll be really great.
And then you probably see every time we post a new episode too.
Totally. Yeah. Our last episode was our biggest one yet. The video really killed it. So thank you to all the new listeners and watchers. 2018 was a really great year for our podcast. For Dre, you said your year was marketing. For us, the year was really about establishing that we are a thing, a platform that's going to be here talking about things and creating content and having opinions about things. And there'll be a platform for our comedy and for our ideas and for conversations. And as crazy shit happens in the world, now we have built a place to go do that. And 2018 was that year of you got to build it strong and big and loud so people know that, this is going to be here. These guys are going to be here talking. And so now 2019, we're going to really ante it up. I've already started putting feelers out for bigger guests, just in terms of people I wanted to wait until we were a bit more established that I just haven't called in those particular favors. So it'll be really fun to have some of those people come by, some of my favorite friends from the comedy scene. I'm sure we'll have more people in from the music scene this year. We've got a guy named Todd who's in my first ever rap group from high school. He's going to come by. We're going to talk about our rapping together. We were in high school and some really awesome stuff coming up for this year. So
yeah, thanks so much for being here for our first episode of 2019.
No, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I've been following you guys for a bit, and it's a pleasure to be here.
My man. The dope title graphic on the screen right now probably is by Sage. Sage's Beard, Sage Uno. I think he's at Sage's Beard on Instagram. Dope artist. Thank you, everybody. My new single, another one, January 25th.
Check it out.
We're heading to Europe. When you're watching this, we'll probably be in Europe. And we'll podcast all about it when we get back.
My birthday.
Hello! I never say holla at the end.